Speaking of Bucks and his famous old club Collingwood, they take on Carlton. Friday night football, the biggest rivalry in the game. I don't think there's any doubt. And we hear the game sold out. Now, that doesn't mean there'll be 100,000, but you've got to think it's 90 plus.
I think no matter what you think of Carlton Football Club, they are great for the AFL competition when they're up and running and they're roaring like they are at the moment. They announced during the week they had 100,000 members, so they're flying off the field as well. But this has got all the ingredient on a Friday night of being one of the games, the home and away games of the year.
No doubt about that. It's going to be an exciting one. It's going to be really interesting to see how they match up on Mackay and Curnow and who goes there and how they can support that matchup.
Mitchell and De Goey out, we're hearing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. The Carlton midfield are going as well as anyone, too, at the moment. So Collingwood are going to have to find a couple through there. And it'll be a challenging night, and they need to get back on the winners list. They really are going to be under the pump if they don't.
Speaking of identity, Ed, Michael Voss had one as a player, and he's now really gaining one as a coach. Here is Vossi after the Geelong loss last week.
I don't want us to settle that it was a good effort or it was close. It was unacceptable. And we've got to be better. Like we conceded whatever it was in terms of the score. I can't even know, 118 points. That's just too much. Sorry if you're a footy follower. I'm sure that was an entertaining game, but we didn't get some important moments right and we didn't defend when we need to for long enough.
You can make excuses for yourselves with injuries, Jimmy, being decimated and all these sorts of things, tough draws, but Vossi's not giving them an out. He sees them as a premiership chance this year.
I love it. He thinks he belongs at the pointy end of the ladder, and you've got to compare yourself against the absolute best. And he did that straight after the game. The Cats were benchmark at the moment. They're on top of the ladder. Let's measure ourselves against that.
OK, boys, over to the Medowian Club. In the meantime, roll the videotape from Collingwood training because that's one of the first games we're going to have a look at here. And Jordan De Goey is out of the side this week. And I think also Damien Hill missed the following week against West Coast. It's the old dreaded osteitis pubis has raised its head. That's the talk. Believe he was a bit sore going in on Anzac Day. Got through the game. But the club thinking that sometimes these things can come on quickly and disappear quickly, and that's the hope. So he's out.
Tom Mitchell out as well, Ed.
Tom Mitchell's out, and also looks like Lockie Sullivan, who is an
aged debutant.
Will get his go in a big game against Carlton.
95,000 at the MCG on Friday night. Both teams travelling pretty well. But Carlton just slightly better, so it's a big game for Collingwood. And Carlton, they win games on clearances. And look at these rankings where they are big-bodied midfielders. They've got one after the other, and they rank one in this area. And it's where I'm concerned, Jim, for Collingwood, where they're beaten up by the Bombers.
Yeah, beaten up. Minus 34 points from stoppage, minus 3 goals from centre bounce, Lloydie. And it's all the positioning, and that's where it normally comes down to. We have a look at a centre bounce here really early in the third quarter or towards the end of the third quarter. And the starting positions, very experienced players, but watch Essendon just explode out the front. Stringer, very powerful against Mitchell there. Remember, there's no Mitchell and De Goey this week, so a bit thin. But you love the look of this one for the Bombers.
I love the shape, and you've got to be caught there. You're not caught inside the contest. So they own the outside here, the Bombers. Stringer owns that outside. And watch the way Stringer and Cox, because you can always shove players under the ball if you get in behind your player. So there's Stringer, and then there's a Cox who's about to get on the outside. So I think Collingwood's shape isn't quite right. And now they lose Jordan De Goey, and they're going to be challenged against a star-studded Carlton midfield, Jim.
Well, the advantage for me, for Collingwood, they take Geelong's model, and it's that rebound off half-back. And Carlton, because they're good at stoppage and good at getting forward, they overcommit at different times. Williams comes ploughing in here after a kick, but look at the numbers out the back here for the Cats. Collingwood did this last week. They kicked 6 goals from their back 50, much like Geelong did against Carlton. And you get these easy goals. So Geelong kicked 7 goals from 15 metres out in between the point posts. So you don't miss many of those. You turn good entries, speed and tempo on the game. Johnny Noble steps inside. That's where I think Collingwood can get Carlton. Speed and tempo on the game, especially from the half-back line.
No doubt. Carlton want a clearance game. Collingwood want it out in the open space. Darcy Moore intrigues me this season. I think he can look good at times and can look really poor. So this is Anzac Day. When there's pressure on the ball, Darcy Moore is outstanding. He's still as good as there is when there's pressure on the ball. But I don't think he quite adjusts when there's not pressure on the ball. So here he is. I don't know what he's guarding there. And then there's his opponent, Peter Wright, gets hit up. So I think he has to adjust his positioning. Here is another one. This is late. This is a Kyle Langford miss late in the game. I'm not sure why he's guarding out wide on the boundary. You've got to sometimes go close. Players forget how to play on a man these days. And I think Darcy Moore he does that a bit. So here's Langford, there's Darcy Moore. So I think he's got to tighten up at the right times.
You can be proactive, but you don't need to be 20 metres proactive. You already own that space. You don't need to own it by that much. Charlie Curnow, an absolute star of the game, full forward. Biggest kid, probably most athletic. Sometimes I feel like he gets stuck in these wrestles too much. Now, the kicks aren't great, so that's not always on Charlie. But I love when he gets on the move. He breaks free. His athleticism. He had Colin Jasny here. He just got caught in the wrestle. Maybe he thought he was just a bit bigger. He had Henry at different stages. But when he releases, there's not too many who can actually stay with him without giving away a free kick or have that explosive power off the mark. There we go. Come up on the lead a little bit earlier, which makes the defender think. And I love this. Gets off his direct opponent, launches at the footy at such a high point, it's almost impossible to stop.
All Carlton for me. I think they should be too strong. What about you?
I sit next to Ed, so I'm going to go Collingwood.
Collingwood? Just because of Ed, or you genuinely believe that?
I don't really believe it, but I'll just say it for him.
About time somebody stepped Collingwood once. What about you?
I sit 2 down from you. I'm going for Carlton, Ed.
I don't think, like I'm intimidating these guys.
We got Patrick Cripps last week, Ed, who we've given the award to because we didn't do the show because of the Anzac Eve game. Well, Patrick Cripps we've given to for round 7 for his 39 disposals, 24 contested, 13 clearances and 7 tackles. So what a colossus of a man he is.
Jay, great to see you. Carlton against Collingwood on Friday night. Doesn't get much better than that. Shapes as one of the biggest games of the season so far. The Pies are going to be missing some key players. Have they got the depth to cover the absence of De Goey and Mitchell?
It's a great question, Drew, because we've seen some of those mainstays perform at a high level inside that Collingwood midfield for some time, winning the premiership last year and had a great season the year before. But this really will be a different look at the black and white, in particular in that engine room without Mitchell and De Goey, as you said, out with sore groins. He's been battling that throughout the start of this season and been pretty brave to play on, is my information. So we're going to see some new faces. And I love that Lachie Sullivan gets his chance because in the VFL over the past 2 seasons, he's been spectacular, averaged 30 possessions, put his head in tight spaces and just continued to rack it up. So he is a guy who has played exceptionally well at the state level, gets his chance and will come in. Also, Finn McRae, you think he'd get that opportunity. Another who's been able to really be a cut above in the twos, but can he prove himself at the top level? You know, he's been such a strong performer, Collingwood have said, in their second side and on the track. So Sullivan, McRae, Oleg Markov is another one who might be able to inject some run on the outside. They'll be so mindful of Sam Walsh and how well he covers the ground, what form he's been in for Carlton. So you think that the Blues go in, you know, with their stoppage power, with Cripps, with Walsh, as I mentioned, Chera a chance to come back from that hamstring. Blues definitely have an edge in that midfield without De Goey and the other player, of course, Mitchell. So it's going to be a fascinating battle in there. For the first time, we'll get a bit of a new look at this Collingwood midfield. Some people saying, you know, Steele side bottom, Scott Pendlebury, do they retire and move on at the end of the year? Well, Collingwood's got to be confident, really, that they have the reserves, the young talent coming through to bash that door down, because if they don't have those midfield runners coming through, then you'd think Steele and Scotty would play on. So it's going to be interesting. A full house at the MCG. What could be better than that, Jonesy?
Then Friday night, so what happens at the MCG, which in this town we know so well when Collingwood and Carlton meets. It feels like it's time for the Pies to get going, but they have had injury setback. The fears of the week were that Jordan De Goey and Tom Mitchell would not be there, and that was confirmed by Craig McRae today.
No, unfortunately, Geordie won't play. He's got tight groins, and so we're just going to sort of back him off a little bit and hopefully get those things settled down so we can, who knows when he's available, ideally next week.
Do you need to prepare to not have Jordan for 3 or 4 weeks? Traditionally, groin stuff doesn't fix itself overnight.
Yeah, we're not. This is the unknown. We're not sure how long that'll be. The reality is it's come reasonably quickly. So, my expertise, which is none, suggests that the things I'm being told is if it comes on quickly, it may go away quickly. But it's a bit of unknown, so we'll have to wait and see.
What about Tom Mitchell?
Yeah, Tom won't play either. Yeah, Tom's got some plantar fascia stuff that's been grumbling for probably a month now, and it's just got to the point where we know we can do some stuff that'll make a huge spike in that, and hopefully rid that in the week too.
So they're both nursing casualties, Carlton and Collingwood, as they come together on Friday night, 6:30 live here on Fox Footy.
He could save time, Craig Crane, just come out and say he's not playing, he's not playing, so he doesn't have to answer all the questions. But they are significant blows, and it just goes to show you, people have been questioning the form of Mitchell and questioning the form of De Goey. He hasn't been quite the player. And then we find out that he's been carrying something for a couple of weeks ago.
Osteitis pubis has come back into the conversation.
We haven't heard that one for a while. Elliot Yeo, I think he was the last player of significant name to have the OP, or ruled him out for a long time.
So if he's been struggling with that to any degree, that absolutely explains why he hasn't been nearly
that explosive. That's the word, Jared, and you've called him as much as anyone when he's going. So anyway,
Tom Mitchell leaving the track today when he knew he couldn't get through.
Anyway, they're not playing, so let's talk about what the composition and how they're going to do it. I think Collingwood believe their belief is something that's sort of underscored them for 2 years. So I think he will be hammering home that belief system. We can still do it without our great players. We've got a great system. You come in and you play your role. Whereas Carlton, Carlton, I liked the way Michael Voss last week said, no. Yeah. No. OK, Carlton, back it up. Collingwood, your self-confidence, not arrogance, your self-confidence is really strong. Back it up. So we've got these two teams, one's 5-2, the other one's 4-3. Collingwood wins, Carlton are back in the pack.
Yep.
Carlton wins, everyone says, oh, they're going to be premiership fancies again.
Yep.
This is one of those, it swings so quickly in 2.5 hours, mate.
Midfield is stacked on both fronts. Carlton's defence has leaked a lot of goals last week, so they're missing personnel. It's sort of like Carlton's forwards more than Collingwood's forwards, but Collingwood's defence is probably better stocked than... So there's a whole lot of different ways to measure this up to produce a beauty.
And 95, maybe? 1,000?
It'd be 90 plus, won't it?
Yeah, can't wait.